So this is the first one. You see in the slide what is about. So it is about INSPIRE SOIL-Geopackage, which was developed by the 3 colleagues from CREA, Andrea, Lachi, Giovanni, Abate, and myself, and with the support of Stefania Morrone from Epsilon, Italia, SRL. So the next slide, please. Okay. I will just introduce very quickly that it is really important for you to understand the whole tool to be present at the 4 workshops. If you cannot join one of these, in any case, we will record all the workshops, and so we will make them available, the recording. They are 1 week after the other, the first 3, then the last one will be in January. So it is important to follow all the workshop, because the first one is about grammatic, structure, component, and rules. So it is about the basis of this tool. It is necessary to understand how it is constructed, which are the components. Like in a language, you have the grammar and the rules. Then the second and the third one are about practical use, both to enter and export data sets, singular one or whole data set. Then in the third workshop in the fourth workshop in January, you will have we have an introduction on vocabularies. So you know, in a language you both need rules and grammar, but you also need words to speak together. So also the last workshop will be really, really important. So now I give the floor to Stefania, who will present the following slides. So,
okay, thank you. Thank you, Maria. So this first workshop, as Maria said, regards basics. So basic introduction to INSPIRE SOIL, and also the observation and measurement standard. We will talk about the good practice mechanism that are behind the creation of the EJP SOIL Good Practice for provision of INSPIRE SOIL data in GeoPackage encoding. So just an outline of the topics we will cover today. Yeah, we are also providing here tentative timings. Let's say next half an hour, the basic introduction to INSPIRE and INSPIRE SOIL model structures. So the feature of interest, what is INSPIRE, what is ongoing simplification of INSPIRE implementation, the INSPIRE good practice mechanism, and the INSPIRE UML SOIL data model. Then we will have the coffee break, then a small question and answer section. And then in the second time slot, we will see how we can connect soil properties and measurements to the feature of interest, and have a look at the observation and measurement standards, how to provide sensor-based observation, and we will see also the OGC Sensor Things API standard, then coffee break and question time again. And in the last part, the INSPIRE SOIL implementation in GeoPackage format. So the good practice on the GeoPackage encoding of INSPIRE dataset, and the specific good practice for the soil data from EJP SOIL. And then you will also have coffee break, let's say, and question and answer, and Mentimeter. Okay, so let's get started. So basic introduction to INSPIRE. What is INSPIRE? It's a directive that came into force in 2007, and it's a framework. It's a legal, technical, and organizational framework to create an infrastructure for spatial information in Europe. The aim is that of facilitating the sharing and reuse of data across the EU in support of environmental policy and decision making. The infrastructure for spatial information in Europe relies on spatial data infrastructures from the member states And very briefly, a spatial data infrastructure is made of data that is thoroughly documented through standard metadata, that is published through network services, so view and download services, and also discovery services for the metadata, and clear data sharing agreements, so clear condition for access and use of data. And this is a big step towards having spatial data that is fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Because INSPIRE requires that you harmonize data through common data models and shared semantics and vocabularies, and also standard encoding to make it interoperable. Requires to publish data through standard network services, view and download, to make it accessible, and document data through standard metadata, which is published through discovery services, to make your data findable and reusable with clear, as I said, data sharing agreements, so licenses and conditions to reuse. The INSPIRE directive identifies 34 spatial data themes as necessary for a successful establishment of an environmental information system, and group them into 3 annexes, 1, 2, 3, for a stepwise and prioritized implementation. So Annex 1 data themes had to be implemented before Annex 2, Annex 3, and so on. And the soil data theme belongs to Annex 3. INSPIRE came with a set of legally binding implementing rules and a set of technical guidelines. So the implementing rules, what is written in the implementing rules is legally binding. Member states and data providers are obliged to respect what is written there. The technical guidelines describe how the member state might implement the implementing rules. So technical guidelines are important, however, for interoperability, because describe a common way to implement the INSPIRE and the implementing rules. And clearly there is a data specification for soil as well. There is a central access point to the INSPIRE data, which is the INSPIRE GeoPortal. The INSPIRE GeoPortal harvests the discovery services from the member states. And it is important to monitoring the variability of dataset in scope, allows discovering suitable dataset based on metadata, on their description, and allows accessing the selected dataset through their view or download services. Here you can see on the right a screenshot taken from the GeoPortal a few days ago. In the GeoPortal, you can see dataset per country, per data team, but also have a view per high-value dataset and priority dataset. But now we are interested in the thematic data and national data. And here you see for the data team soil. And you can see that from the statistic, we have only, let's say, few datasets that are downloadable, only a little bit more than 200, and a little bit more than 300 viewable datasets. And very briefly also, all spatial datasets, whatever the annex, should have been conformant to implementing rules and available through network services by end of October 2020, so 4 years ago already. Okay, INSPIRE. There is an ongoing simplification process of INSPIRE. Why? Because I said INSPIRE came with implementing rules and technical guidelines, but these have been perceived as too complex by the implementers in most cases, resulting in fragmented implementation and low community involvement. This also because the existing software tools did not always suit the technical implementation of INSPIRE. We're not able, for example, to handle the default INSPIRE encoding that is the GML in a proper way. And also, when bugs or inconsistencies were spotted in the TGs, in the UML models, or in the XML schemas, the procedures to update, to fix this, were really long. It took years to update and fix everything. Last but not least, since the entry into force of the directive in 2007, there has been clearly technological evolution. So this, the implementation experience has showed the need for updated technical guidelines, new technical guidelines, for example, to provide for the new technologies. And also new mechanism and processes to enable easy updating, facilitate implementation, and maximize the reuse of INSPIRE. And the INSPIRE work programs of these last 4 years resulted, among others, in a new governance process for INSPIRE artifacts and the good practice mechanism. Moreover, to enhance transparency and community involvement, the GitHub platform is being used to support the maintenance, implementation, and evolution of technical approaches of INSPIRE through the INSPIRE MIF organization and the related repositories. On the right, you see a screenshot of the INSPIRE maintenance and implementation, so the INSPIRE MIF GitHub organization with the related repositories. Indeed, repositories are more than this, but it's just a screenshot of the first one. And through this GitHub organization and repositories, one is able, for example, to propose fixes or change proposal to the technical guidelines, to the application schemas, and these are then discussed, follow a specific procedure, and if approved in the end by the MIG, the related artifacts, so the schemas or the technical guidelines, the UML, is directly changed. So the change is implemented as up. We have 2 schema releases per year. One is the end of January, and the other one is end of July. So in this case, fixing schemas or accept proposals is quite fast, so for sure faster than it was before. The INSPIRE good practice mechanism, this is fundamental to understand the work done by EJP SOIL for the geopackage encoding of INSPIRE SOIL. So, what are good practice? Good practices complement the initial set of INSPIRE implementing rules and related technical guidelines. There is a specific process that has to be followed, clearly, specific procedures to propose good practice and for these practices to become part of INSPIRE. And this process culminates in a final approval by the MIG or rejection, clearly. But if a good practice follows all the steps successfully and arrives at the MIG, it is usually endorsed. And then after the endorsement, the good practice becomes part of the official INSPIRE technical documents. The good practices already endorsed, as well as those that are still candidates, are available in the INSPIRE website, the INSPIRE knowledge base. Among these, we can see the possibility to provide INSPIRE dataset in encodings that are alternative to the GML, like the GeoPackage or the GeoJSON. To provide metadata also in GeoDicat AP, which is quite relevant for the high-value dataset in this case, for example, or to provide download services based on OGC API features or OGC sensor things API. So example of good practice include for extended or simplified data model to support specific community needs. The use of different encodings for data as the GeoPackage and the GeoJSON that can facilitate the implementation and the reuse of INSPIRE. And technologies to improve the usability or the usefulness of the spatial data infrastructure. For example, possibility to share spatial data on the web using download services based on OGC API features, but also sensor things API for sensor data. And now let's dive a little bit in the INSPIRE SOIL data model standard and to the spatial objects that are fundamental for INSPIRE SOIL. First of all, we will refer here the approved INSPIRE UML model for soil. Approved or consolidated is the other terms, means that it is contained in the implementing rule. So the special objects that we will talk about today are mandatory objects from INSPIRE SOIL. So the UML model for soil contains a vector part, but also an observational part. So O&M for soil, it is called, and relies on the O&M standards to provide observation to the feature of interest, which are described in the vector part. So the soil profile, the soil site, the profile elements, but we will see this in detail in the next slides. Before getting into the special objects, let's see which data is in the scope of INSPIRE SOIL. For sure, the soil inventories. So one-off assessment of soil conditions or soil properties at a certain locations at a specific point in time, allowing soil monitoring. But also the soil maps. So the spatial representation of soil types and properties. Other soil-related information derived from soil properties, also in combination with non-soil data, are also in the scope of INSPIRE SOIL, so fall under INSPIRE obligation. INSPIRE data model contains a core set of spatial object types for soil data exchange and builds on a core set of spatial object types for soil data exchange. Built on ISO 20258, but also for the soil maps in raster form on ISO 19123, and the observation and measurement standard, so the ISO 19156. The properties of soil spatial objects are modeled through association with observation and measurement through the O&M observation class. And primary soil classification uses the WRB and the FEO horizon notation schemes. The first spatial object is the soil site. So the definition is quite clear. It's an area within a larger survey, study, or monitored area where a specific soil investigation is carried out. A site often represents only the loosely defined environment of the plot. So it's not always well defined in space. And the geometry attribute can be surface or point. And this is the UML class for the soil site. So where you also have to provide the identifier of the soil site through the INSPIRE ID, the geometry clear, but also the purpose for which you are investigating. So that belongs to the soil investigation purpose value, code list. The soil plot is the location where the soil profiling is carried out, and it is located on a soil site. Its position in space can be provided either as a spatial representation, so as a point itself, or you can provide only the description of the location using a text or an identifier. A soil plot is of a certain type, so you must specify also if it's a trial pit, a borehole, or a sample. And here you see on the right the soil class corresponding to the plot. You can see that a plot is associated to the soil site through the located on association, but also the site is associated to the soil plot because a site is observed on soil plot location. The soil profile is a cross-section of the soil from the surface down to the material unmodified by pedogenesis. So it's a soil characterization by its vertical extent. A soil profile can be observed or derived. An observed soil profile refers to a real-world location and specified by an associated soil plot. A derived soil profile has property values that are derived from the corresponding values or one or more observed profile, and a soil profile is composed of several profile elements. And this is the corresponding class. So the soil profile can be observed, can be derived, and is described by one-to-many profile elements, which are in turn part of the soil profile. Horizons and layers are profile elements, and the horizon is an homogeneous section of a profile with similar characteristic, physical, chemical, or biological. It is distinguished primarily by texture, color, structure, chemical composition, and biomass, and it's named according to the FAO horizon notation scheme. The layer is an arbitrary section of the profile, so not homogeneous, not necessarily homogeneous, may not correspond to pedogenetic horizons, and is defined generally by fixed depth intervals, and is classified according to concept that fits the purpose. For example, a layer is topsoil. So this is the INSPIRE class related to it. And soil horizon and soil layer are subtypes of the profile elements, so are profile elements. And in INSPIRE, the profile element feature type is abstract, so cannot be directly implemented. Then the soil body. The soil body is association of soils found together within an area. It's equivalent, the INSPIRE concept of soil body is equivalent to a soil mapping unit. It's described by one or more derived soil profiles that are found together in the area specified by the geometry attribute of the soil body. So this is the class. You can see that the soil body has geometry that is multi-surface. And when it comes from many derived profile, you can specify a percentage of the specific derived profiles it is made of. And this, of course, described by one or more derived soil profiles. Soil-derived objects, so the maps. So soil-derived object is a spatial object representing a soil-related property, can be associated with one or more soil profile or soil body objects, and can also be derived from other kinds of data, for example, from climate data. An example of soil-derived object is a map of soil erosion risk, for example, created by a predictive model. This is the overview of the soil-derived object feature classes. So you have to provide the geometries and association to the observed soil profile, 0 to many, can be based on other soil-derived objects, so 0 to many, also this one, and can be based also on soil bodies, 0 to many. And this is the soil vector overview. Here you can see that all the different spatial objects we have gone through, so the different pieces are linked together by association. So the soil site is observed on a soil plot, the soil plot is located on soil site. There is a one-to-one relation between the soil plot and the related observed profile. The soil-derived profile is derived from observed soil profile. The soil site is made of profile elements that can be soil horizon and soil layer. So everything is interconnected through associations. Soil coverage model. So the ability to provide thematic soil maps in raster form is based in INSPIRE on ISO 19123, so the coverage standard. Conceptual model initially provided in INSPIRE that you see on the right now was not suitable for provision through web coverage services. This has been now fixed because, I mean, the way it was derived from rectified the grid coverage was not suitable for WCS, was not conformant to the standard. So it has now been fixed through an INSPIRE Good Practice called OGC Compliant INSPIRE Coverage Data and Services Implementation. So those who are interested in providing coverages should follow the INSPIRE Good Practice that is available in the Good Practice library we have seen before. I think we are quite in time for the coffee break.
Yes, yes. Actually, we have only 5 minutes more, so it's good. Yeah. We have thought to have maybe before the break, before having questions, but yes, this is. We can also have questions. We can also have some maybe 5 minutes question now and then have a break.
Okay.
Okay, so I suppose that you can raise your hand. I think that maybe Rosario had a question.
Unmute yourself, Rosario, and speak.
Sorry, morning to all. I would like to ask to you, Simona, I don't remember
Stefania.
your name.
Stefania.
Sorry, Stefania. So if I understand, the coverage is possible only in raster format, not in vector format?
No, you can provide, if you want to provide the raster, you can provide the raster. If you want to provide vector, you can provide in vector format. Yes, you can. You can choose.
Okay, because,
there is the ability.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I understand well, but if in raster there is the problem of link some one-to-many information, so is kind of raster with a database table linked, that you can link many, because if you think about soil derived properties, that is the new concept that represent the soil typological unit. So many profile with the same features, so characteristics, similar soils, so similar profile, all put together. Generally, we have for the feature, for the internal feature horizon, we have a statistic representation of the feature that is because there are many profile that are linked to the soil derived properties that is linked to the coverage. So is a one-to-many link. And so I was thinking about how to, in case of raster representation, how to bring the statistic information linked, because generally we use in digital soil mapping, we use to represent a raster only in the case we have only one feature. For example, map of organic carbon, surface organic carbon, or map of surface compaction, or sand, silt, clay. So if you have raster, you can have also in GIS representation raster with a table, a one-to-many table linked. It is possible here?
Maria has raised her hand.
Yes, I want just to clarify that one thing is a map. The map is described by the vector that was presented by Stefania. And then the other is the coverage, which is this. So this is the map you can produce with this.
This is vector.
And this is the vector part. Yes, sure. And if you can go to the model, the other slide, Stefania. Yeah, with this model, you can reproduce our maps, how we are used to work with polygons, which are representative of soil mapping unit, so the soil body and all the things related. Okay. But then the other slide, which was about coverage, is another thing that should be implemented with good practice that Stefania mentioned. But this will, I think we will not enter into all these details because it's not part of this presentation today. But if Stefania, you want to answer to some of the specific questions from Rosario, yes, about the raster, but it is not part.
Well, if I understand, the raster is used only for coverage, not for vector.
For provision through coverage, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and used practically only for thematic maps.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
As we use commonly. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think that we do not have time for, and I don't see anybody with hands, right? So we can have a 5 minutes break as for a scene.
Okay.
We
perfect.
will see at 35.
Okay. Perfect. I will stop recording now.